Yeah, hi, hello, and welcome everyone. Welcome to the Migration Summit 2023, to the week 4, so finalizing this month-long global convening that was designed to build bridges between, diverse communities of displaced learners, companies, universities, social enterprises, policymakers around the key challenges and opportunities for refugee and migrant communities. I'm super happy to be introducing people who have joined for the first edition of the summit. And so it's great to see some familiar faces. This year, we're exploring the theme co-creating pathways for learning, livelihood, and dignity through virtual and in-person events around the world. And so I know that we have a very packed agenda for today and very interesting stories to listen. And so I'll pass it over to Ravina, the moderator for today. And yeah, welcoming everyone to this session.
Thank you so much. Well, welcome to this joint session between Global Mentorship Initiative and Southern New Hampshire University's Global Education Movement. During this hour-long session, we will hear from leaders, local representatives, and student graduates of both programs. We will share our lessons learned in creating a scalable partnership to provide wraparound services to refugee learners. And we're really hoping for two outcomes from the session. First, we're hoping that in sharing the practical experiences and challenges in establishing a partnership, we can encourage other nonprofits and actors who are supporting refugee learners to explore how we can work together to create scalable support networks and pathways to prosperity. We're also really hoping that the session will allow us to connect with other actors who can help us improve employment outcomes for refugees. So wanted to start, there's a lot of panelists in this session. So before we get started, can we take a minute for everyone who is presenting to briefly introduce themselves? And I'd encourage the panelists and any participants, as you're already doing, who would like to network to drop your LinkedIn profile or contact information into the chat. Rachel, would you mind getting us started and just taking a minute to introduce yourself?
Sure. My name is Rachel Sears. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. I see we have people from all around the world, so that's very exciting. I work for Southern New Hampshire University. I'm vice president and also executive director of the Global Education Movement, and I support our students and our partners in Africa and the Middle East. Do you want me to pass it over to John?
Yeah, that would be great. John, would you like to go next?
Yeah, thanks, Rachel and Ravenna. And hello, everyone. I'm just so glad to be here today. I'm John Browning, and I'm the founder and CEO of Global Mentorship Initiative. And I'll put my email in the chat here in just a minute as well.
Okay. Hi, everyone. I'm Nando Adihabyaremye. I work at Kepler Rwanda. It is an organization that is partnering with the SNHU Global Education Movement to provide on-the-ground support to students who are taking SNHU program. Happy to be with you.
Thank you. Enos?
Hello, everybody. My name is Enos Sabele Kabele. I work for GRS Kenya as the SNHU coordinator. Pleasure meeting all of you. Looking forward to having a wonderful discussion with all the members. Thank you so much.
Hi, everyone. My name is Sandrine Morisa, and I work at One Acre Funds. And I'm a former student from Kepler under Southern New Hampshire University program. Yeah, I also drop my email in the chat.
Hello, good evening, everybody. I'm Jean de Dienda Ikeza, graduate from Southern New Hampshire University program, Kepler Kigali, Rwanda. I'm also a graduate from the GMI mentorship program. And lastly, I'm also the co-founder of Act for a Better Future, an initiative and non-profit working with refugees in Mahama refugee camp in Rwanda. Glad to be here again, one more time.
Awesome. Are we missing someone else, or should I pull up the slides?
Yeah, I didn't hear if Felista was able to speak because my internet, I'm sorry, I'm having some issues. Was Felista able to introduce herself?
Not yet. So Felista, I think you should be able to unmute yourself now.
Okay, good evening, everyone. My name is Felista Kenny Lotimbo. I'm a recent graduate from Southern. I'm saying
Felista, I think you're still on mute.
No, I think she was able to introduce herself. She didn't have the best internet connection, but
There's
Yeah,
a
just
delay
to
on my
jump
end.
in,
I apologize.
to jump in briefly for Felista, she's currently trying to find a way out of Sudan. She traveled to visit her family, but the current conflict broke out when she's there. So she informed me that she's currently traveling via road, so she'll try as much as possible to be audible. But that's the situation. Sorry, apologies on her behalf.
Oh my gracious. Oh, please stay safe. That's so sorry to hear that. Could we then maybe go to the next slide, the first slide on GMI, slide 4, and John could take some time to introduce GMI.
Yes, thanks, Ravenna. And we're at GMI, we're just delighted to be part of this conference and to be able to share some ideas and hopefully create some new partnerships as well. So could you go ahead and go to the next slide, please? So the idea for GMI was born while I was working with some job recruiters on an impact sourcing project with the Rockefeller Foundation. And these recruiters, they enlightened me that most of the jobs were not usually going to the young people who needed them most. In that, I mean, first generation college students or those that don't have the same opportunity as others. Instead, more than likely, these jobs were going to people who already had a strong support network. They have business connections and sometimes even mentors. So while these graduating students were equally qualified for these jobs, sometimes they were less competitive in their job search because of this. And so addressing this opportunity gap is really what GMI is all about. And with our partnerships with the great institutions like SNHU, we work with students around the world who are nominated by their colleges like SNHU, and we match them with a business professional. They begin a very structured, short-term online mentorship. And the program is designed to make it easy to be a good mentor without a large time commitment. And this is very important. And it's built to give our students a consistent, high-quality experience as well. We want every student to get the most from the program. GMI is fortunate. We're growing fast enough that we're adding about 2 college and youth partners every month right now to the program. We now have 45 university and youth partnerships. Regarding the scale, we have grown from a pilot of 4 students in Johannesburg to now approaching 4,000 students in 92 countries. And this includes 8 refugee camps across Africa and Lebanon. We have over 3,000 mentors in 127 countries who support these mentees all around the world. And regarding the output on the right side of the screen, we're a young organization, it's true. But so far, the results have been really encouraging. To measure student progress, we created a career confidence index. We evaluate their confidence and their skill level related to their upcoming job search. And we do this before and after the mentorship. We check in regularly with students after they complete the program. We do this at 6, 12, and 24 months later. The results so far have been very good. On average, students enter the program with an index score of 53, and they graduate the program with an average of 90 points out of 100. And perhaps most importantly, 76% have a job within 6 months of graduating school. And this is a number for students worldwide. Could we go to the next slide, please? The students in the mentorship program, they get engaged right away, and they're learning how to present themselves to the job market, how to speak with confidence, and they're actually building a business network of 500 contacts that they will use during their job search. They're learning how to set SMART goals, and they're learning how to think like a hiring manager. They start applying for jobs usually during their mentorship, and their mentor will coach them on how to be confident and effective in their interviews. And finally, their mentor will help them get ready for their first day on the job, how to make the right first impressions in the workplace. Too often, young people entering the job market for the first time, they may not be fully prepared for the work environment that's ahead of them. And this is where a mentor can really be helpful with perspective and coaching. We even guide a mentee on what happens when they get their first negative job performance review and how they should bounce back from that. And one of the most important elements is really the perspective and the experience that mentors bring to the program. A lot of them come into the program thinking that if they're not an expert in these kinds of things and they haven't had a job interview in a while, that they may not be a good mentor. There's always this question. But the key here is to construct a program that makes it easy for almost anyone to be a great mentor, no matter where they live or what industry that they work in. And if we're to have a scalable model where we're going to serve 10,000 students a year in this program, it must be structured in a way that guides both the student and the mentor from start to finish. They should always know what's expected of them and what's coming next. So that's a little bit about GMI, and you can go ahead and go to the next slide.
Okay.
Rachel, would you hop?
Sure. Again, I'm really happy to be here and excited to see everybody. Again, I'm Rachel Sears. I work with Southern New Hampshire University, and I support our Global Education Movement program. If you can go to the next slide. So Southern New Hampshire University's Global Education Movement provides U.S. accredited bachelor's degrees to refugees and their surrounding communities. We currently have 12 sites in 5 countries. We're operating in Rwanda, South Africa, Kenya, Lebanon, and Malawi. And we have multiple sites in those countries, some in refugee camps, and in some places we support urban refugees. We currently have over 1,000 students enrolled and over 2,600 students served. About 81% of our graduates will graduate with an AS degree within 2 years, and 75% of our graduates will graduate with a BA in 2 years. So the total median graduation for our students, the rate is about 3.5 years to graduate with an AS and a BA. Our program is self-paced and it's competency-based. So students are able to speed up or slow down depending on what's going on in their lives. Some students finish more quickly, some students take a little bit of a longer time. The other important thing to know about our program is that our credits are not tethered to seat time, which is essentially what the CBE degree does. So students complete projects, they receive faculty feedback, and they demonstrate the competencies that they learned. And this is the way that they move through our program. Oops, perfect. I was about to say next slide. As you can see from our last slide, we work with on-the-ground partners, so we deliver our program through a partnership model. We select local partners who have deep roots in the community and really a deep understanding of the context where we're operating. In this way, they're able to provide wraparound supports for students and really meet students where they are. GEM and SNU provide the academic program, we provide the faculty and the reviewing. We also have a focus on employment and livelihoods. So we are providing internal internships. All of our students must complete an internship prior to graduation. And then our on-the-ground partners provide wraparound supports that make sense to their students and their context. Those supports include things like academic coaching, mental health support, internship and employment, childcare, advocacy. And then we do partner with some partners who provide wraparound supports to our students across sites. So GMI is a good example of this partnership. They're providing wraparound supports in the form of mentorship to our students across our sites in Africa and the Middle East. And this is a good example of how we've created a partnership to provide services to our learners. Next slide. As I mentioned, this new GEM program has a focus on pathways to employment. Our curriculum includes relevant competencies that help students have the skills that they need when they graduate to enter the workforce. We've worked with local and international employers to identify what these skills are, and we've incorporated them into our program so that our students are poised and ready to enter the workplace. As I mentioned, our students complete one internship. We also support the soft skills that are necessary for students to be successful in the workplace. And GEM works with our on-the-ground partners to create a robust pipeline of internship and employment opportunities for students and grads, both locally, where refugees have the right to work, and also internationally in cases where students don't necessarily have the right to work. 85% of our students report that they are in dignified employment 6 months post-graduation. So that's a pretty exciting statistic for us.
That's fantastic. John, would you mind just taking a couple minutes to say why for GMI supporting refugees was a priority for us from the beginning or relatively early on, and how that initial meeting happened? And Camila, if you could stop sharing the slides just for the next couple minutes.
Absolutely. Yes. Well, it was a great chance meeting in the fall of 2020 when GMI and SNHU, the GEM program, we were connected. I was speaking at a conference and Rachel's team saw an opportunity for us to work together, and it's just been fantastic ever since. The GEM team has been wonderful to work with because they help us support the mentorship program. They meet with the refugee students to discuss the mentorship opportunity before we engage. We want to make sure that they know what to expect, and also to determine if the student is ready for the mentorship. Because we want to make sure that when a student begins the program that they are able to complete it. I really like the GEM program because it's competency-based, and a student can speed up or slow down as they complete their education, depending on their circumstances. And we all know, we're attending this conference, that life in a refugee camp can be unpredictable and sometimes very unstable. And the GEM program takes that into consideration. We're not all working on the same timeline. And I think we're all attending this conference because we want to make a difference somehow for the refugee crisis. We have so many challenges, and there's a lot of wonderful organizations like GEM and many others who are helping refugees prepare for a job by getting a good education. But just getting prepared for a job can be a hollow achievement if there aren't jobs available. It's something that we want to think about is how can those of us attending this conference, how can we partner together to increase these job opportunities for people in migration? I think we'll start to see some pretty good progress when we can bring together a coalition of the right actors, employers worldwide, specific government support, and partners like the GEM program that together make it easier to employ refugees even before they left the refugee camp. And so I'll put this out here. I put my email address in the chat. If you're interested in partnering with GMI to bring more students into the program or to provide mentors, then send me a note and then let's talk afterwards.
Absolutely. Rachel, could I ask you why specifically was mentorship a need for GEM students? And specifically, what about the GMI model made it a good fit for your program?
Absolutely. So for our students, some of them had not looked for jobs before or had not looked for jobs internationally before. Some are employed and are looking for different kinds of jobs. They'd like to move up, they'd like to change their employment. And so we really needed to be able to support them individually to understand what it is that they needed around employment and how we could support them. And our program is an academic program. We do provide some wraparound supports, but we rely on partners to really provide that one-on-one outside of academic wraparound supports. And one of the reasons why GMI is such a good match for us, and I think students in our context or refugee students, is that GMI truly meets students where they are. They have trained mentors that engage students in a structured program so students stay on track, and the mentorship has an employment focus. However, the program is flexible enough to really get to know students on an individual level and understand what exactly they need personally, which is really important. However, the scaffolding is in place so that everyone stays focused and on track, and that we make sure that we're, all going toward the relevant outcomes that we've all decided on. And also there are very clear boundaries. So the mentorship program doesn't change into something else like, potentially beyond mentorship, like a friendship, which is wonderful, but we want to make sure that the mentorship element is still happening, and that's what's happening with GMI. Also, from an operational perspective, GMI runs the partnership program and oversees the day-to-day, which is important because it doesn't put an additional burden onto SNU or the partners operationally day-to-day. And so what will happen is we will connect GMI with the interested on-the-ground partner. The on-the-ground partner works to identify students who are ready for the mentorship program, as John mentioned. And then once the students are in the mentorship program, GMI really takes over from there. They're tracking the students, they're supporting the students. And this way, there's no duplication of efforts from SNU, from the partners, and from GMI. So everyone is staying in their lane, but working together to support the students. And also, because of the way that GMI operates, we've been able to create this scalable partnership to provide the mentorship wraparound supports across all of our sites. And so that I think works for us.
Well, thank you. Camila, would you share the next slide? It should be number 12. And I wanted to kind of switch gears and focus a little more on the practical piece of getting a program in place and what is the user experience and the experience of people who are in country and on the ground. Landois, would you mind taking a minute to share how in your role with Kepler you became involved with SNHU GEM and with GMI?
Okay. Thank you for the question. Well, we work hand in hand with SNHU GEM. We have on the ground coach who are providing day-to-day support to students. And personally, I'm working with the team that is offering that academic coaching to students. And SNHU GEM has been reaching out, checking with us the students who are ready to be recommended for GMI opportunities. And this has been really something we have been appreciating, because this is in line with both SNHU and Kepler missions of supporting students to have access to quality education while developing professional skills which can help them to be competitive at the job market. And again, this fit with KEPRA missions because we are targeting to support students who are from marginalized community, and 25% of KEPRA target is from refugee community. And this was really adding advantage to our mission. And we have been providing students who are recommended to GMI mentorship programs. And we started by having our career team identifying the students who are ready for mentorship program, the same way they share other internship opportunities. And SNHUGM has seen the need to connect us to GMI directly, as Rachel highlighted. And in May 2022, we had orientation session where GMI team introduced to us the model, shared with us the materials to use. And from there, we started engaging with the students directly by explaining the why for the mentorship, by sharing the materials with the students. And we have a good number of students who appreciated the learning from the GMI program. And specifically, we have decided to say, instead of sharing this opportunity with the majority of students through simple communication, what if we can engage with the student at a particular time? There is a time where students take a module we offer, which is called the career choice. And at the end of the module, instructor could take a time to remind the student about the opportunity to share the sign-up form. And we realized that this is also something that can benefit students by the time they can be transitioning from associate degree to the bachelor's degree. And we decided to say now, let us use this milestone of learning as an opportunity to share the opportunity to students. And we have been sharing this through the session we have with the students while orienting them to the BA program. And this has been really adding a value to their experience. We have good testimonies of students who have been developing interview skills, who have been really developing good professional traits, including how to frame their resume, how to behave while performing at the workplace, how to deal with the conflict, how to manage different aspects of the workplace, which is really a good experience. And we said, this is something beneficial to the mission of SNHU. This is something beneficial to the mission of KEPRA, and we should aim to really support the expansion of the program to our students. And we have more than 100 students who are registered through KEPRA who took the program. And we hope this has been really helpful, and we can reach directly to GMI team through the coordination of SNHUGM, and the experience has been really helpful. I remember once I talked to one of our students who have gone through the program, and he once said, I worked with a mentor who was really an expert, and the mentor has been really supporting me. The insight I've got from the mentor has been helpful by the time I was applying for the internship. And she was flexible enough to schedule the time for a meeting. And I remember the time she could tell me, whenever you need my support, please reach out to me. Whenever you need my input, reach out to me. And the collaboration stayed because they are even still in touch after the completion of mentorship program, and we consider this support to be really great to our students, to be making an impact to our students, given how they have been providing testimonies of their experience with working with GMI mentors. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Landua. Enos, could you share from your experience in Kenya, kind of how you became involved with GMI and how you connect students to the program and the feedback that you've gotten?
So once again, hello everybody. I'll be very brief. I joined GRS as a career coach or counselor. And when I joined GRS, I think it's when we knew about GEM, we knew about GMI through SNHU and GEM. When I joined the program, I was really excited about, my main role was assisting or advising students on various career opportunities and just preparing them for the job market. And I must admit that the presence of the GEM and GMI partnership really made my work easy. We simply advertised to the students the opportunity, and the suitable candidates were able to apply. One thing that I would say that has really benefited the SNHU students within the GRS platform is that basically due to globalization and the uprising of world economies, job opportunities have risen in tremendous ways, pushing students to undertake mentoring sessions to withstand the rapid development. General mentorship is crucial to anyone, as you know, who desire progress. However, student mentorship remains the main essential tutoring since it shapes our world's future. The partnership between GEM, GRS, and GMI, I think, from my own perspective, outlines the leadership skill that is seized by the mentor, clearing the way for our graduates and even our students to find their dream profession. But the big question that we do ask as GRS is, how does student mentorship pave the way for a successful career building? And this is a question that I think has been answered in three main ways, based on the experience and the feedback that we've got from the students. That the GMI mentorship has started and equipped them with three main stages and strategies. That is one which most of them really confess to, is that self-perception. And then number two, they've had clearer vision and clearer goals. And then lastly, they've been able to develop smart strategy for future their career opportunities. So maybe just to expound on that a little bit is the big question that we asked on self-perception that most of them have said they got the answer from through this mentorship is, how can someone or how can a student be able to attract a positive outcome without knowing himself or herself? And this mentorship has really given the students a distinct identity, has boosted their confidence, self-confidence, through recognizing themselves. So I think that's one of the major things that this mentorship has provided to our students. They've had a high approval rate to any job opportunity available, and that is evidenced by the various internship opportunities that they do attend physically. And most of this is through the experience of GMI. The second one that I mentioned was clear vision and goals. It's known all over that highly successful people have clear vision and goals. And in most of our contexts, students or nowadays suffer from lack of orientation, finishing high school or even colleges without clear vision of what their future looks like. GMI, through the mentorship program, I think made this clear to our students. And they were able to have clear goals within their career line. And lastly, the SMART strategy that they developed from this mentorship, working on a successful career, basically does not require any self-perception and having clear goals. However, SMART strategy is essential for any decision taken. As students experiencing mentorship will definitely learn how to make important decisions in life, taking into consideration 5 necessary phases, which is the SMART strategy, that is specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-based. And I think these are some of the key things that our students have confessed to from gaining from the GMI mentorship. So that is just a summary of our interaction with GMI. I'm really glad, and it's an honor to be in this discussion because we look forward to a more stronger partnership with GMI, with GEM, with SNU, and all other members and other partners that I can see on the chat are reaching out. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Enos. That was, I really like the point as well about we can't attract positive outcomes. No one can if we don't know ourselves, and the importance of taking the time. And that's one of the aspects of getting a degree and going through the mentorship program. Camila, would you mind going to the next slide, please? So we wanted to shift and hear from 3 of our student graduates who have now gone on and are doing all doing wonderful things in their own lives. But specifically, if we can start, Sandrine, would you mind sharing a little bit more about how you found out about the GEM program and how you found out about the GMI program?
Thanks, Ravina. So I remember I first had the first time I heard about GEM was back in high school in 2017. That was my last year of high school, and Kepler came to our high school to do a Pivot Academy project, and there were some Kepler students, and that's how I learned about Kepler, about GMI, and then I got interested, especially with the unique way of giving out, these competencies to students, because this was something unique in Rwanda, and I've never had anything like this in Rwanda. And so I got interested, and when I got out of high school, I applied, did the exams and interviews, and I got in. So that's how I knew about GM. And about GMI, I remember that this was in COVID, and I had finished all my modules and my competencies. I was just waiting for graduation on my BA, and the school, Kepler, reached out through emails. They're like, we have this mentorship program, and we hope you can learn more on the soft skills. And I got also interested, and that's how I joined GMI. I got really good skills, especially my mentor, Jen, and yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you, Sandrine. Jado, would you mind sharing a little bit more about what your experience was like going through the GMI program, and how if you could share a little bit more about how you've used those materials in the nonprofit you created?
All right, thanks, Ravina. For me, the GMI program was something very interesting, I would say, because I was in the GEM program, almost graduating from my program. So I was like, yeah, I feel like I need something to help me go or launch into the world, and the GMI program was there. So the materials during the program was more relevant to me because I was having the skills, but I felt like I needed something more. And I ended up going beyond from that because the materials from the GMI program was also helpful for me launching my nonprofit initiative in Rwanda with my colleagues. So I took the materials, the mentorship, how it's designed, my experience with my mentor, and be able to think, how can I use the experience from the program and also translate this to a more applicable situation for someone who is in a refugee camp, who doesn't have access to internet, access to the computer, access to the phones, smartphones, something like that. So I was able to leverage the resources and be able to create a Act for a Better Future using some of the resources from the GMI program, but also the experience with my mentor trying to redesign the materials, how to make the CV, how to make the cover letters, but mostly I would say how to think before someone else think, and then you be able to win the person. You go one step ahead of that person, and then you'll be able to answer all the questions before he or she even ask the questions. I would say that was my my experience using the materials from GMI, but it went beyond that also in the job searching thing. I don't know if you want to hear more about that, how it was really helpful also finding the job.
Please,
Ravenna.
please.
Yeah, I would say when I was graduating from the GEM program, it was pretty damn hard to find a job, and I was struggling so much to get a job. And you know, it's the hardest job to find. I mean, the first job. So I was able to use the experience from the GMI program. I met this boss he was in Rwanda, and then I was able to, I would say, to impress him. But most importantly, I tried to use the materials. My mentor, Dave, he will usually tell me, you know what, the first job is the hardest one, but to find a job, it's a game of numbers. You have to apply to as many jobs as you can. And from there, you get as many rejections as possible. And that's when you know you're close to getting one interview. And I know when you get to the interview, at least you will be able to express yourself and win the job. And that happened, actually. I applied to a good number of jobs, but most of the time, oh my God, it was challenging, mostly crying and be like, oh, no, I'm not going to apply anymore. This is done. Applying 10 jobs and then I'm not getting anything from that. No, I'm stopping. But then I would remember it's a game of numbers. You apply to as many jobs as you can. You get as many rejections as possible. And that's when you know you're getting close to the interview. So I kept pushing, and at the end of the day, it really worked. I would say it was more or less of the word of an encouragement, and also to know what to say and when exactly. I would say for the GMI program.
Thank you, Jado. Felisa, I don't know if you're going to have enough connection, but if you're able to speak, could you share with us how you're using your SNHU degree and what you learned from the GMI program now?
Okay, thank you so much for the chance. What was interesting in GEM, first of all, it was an opportunity for high study. When first I completed my senior form, my form 4, I was not having an idea what to do next, as in my parents were not able to take me for higher education. So I found the GRS advertising on boards, the opportunity of GEM studies. So I got an advert and I applied for it. I went through many interviews, and lucky enough, I was chosen to be part of the program. And I was so much happy because I was, first of all, yearning for further study. That was the most interesting thing. And it was more interesting because it was a global thing. I was able to meet people from different countries, to interact with different kind of people, build network. And another most interesting thing, it was also online learning, which was the first thing to me. I was able to know more about computer and internet thing, doing a research, and so that was really, really interesting. And with GMI, when I got an application also I had applied, I was very lucky to be given a very good mentor, Jan. So she took me all the sessions, and I really learned a lot of things. And the takeaway that I took from her, I am now unable to initiate a group in Kakuma refugee camp. I have now about 50 members that taking them through mentorship, exactly the process that I was being taken through. So I have divided the sessions, like there was this session for CV writing and resume. So I gathered those who are about to finish the secondary school. I'm trying to take them through on how they will be applying for jobs and how they could build networking and how they will be having such professional skills. For primary school, I also have some few numbers that I'm also taking them through some of the preparation, like on how they will do self-reflection and build on a career choice, something of that kind. So this is really a very nice program that they have really appreciated, and I'm enjoying doing it. As I'm also lucky to be a coach for GMI, I'm able to install also to the students what I have went through and what is benefiting me. And I'm really enjoying, and I'm seeing the fruit of the program.
Thank you so much. Thank you for sharing, Felista. So we want to take some time while we have everyone on the call to talk about opportunities, to answer questions and talk about opportunities to kind of continue this pathway and improve outcomes for refugee learners. But before we do that, John, would you just take a couple minutes briefly to share your perspective on what mentors need to successfully mentor refugee learners? Because that's a question we get pretty often, is what is the difference between supporting refugee learners through a mentorship versus non-refugee learners?
Yeah, I'll just be very brief here. It would, first of all, I just love hearing all of the stories about the experiences of the partnership with GEM and GMI. It's really encouraging. It would be an understatement to say that a refugee student has unique challenges. It's more than that. And being a mentor in this case definitely requires additional training and patience. We're working with students who are in the camps, and sometimes they can't access the internet or they can't attend a session for one reason or another. The job opportunities available to students are limited, and the mentor has to help the student set achievable short-term goals while building this longer-term plan to achieve what's possible. So it's really two perspectives. What can I do now? What is my longer term goal? Being a mentor in this environment is never easy, but we provide extra training for this, and it's not easy, but it's extremely rewarding, and it will be something. It is something that mentors will never forget the experience.
Thank you so much, John. So now I think this is the time for us to answer any questions, and then specifically really wanted to focus on opportunities. What are challenges that we've encountered with GMI and with GEM, and how can we work together to improve outcomes specifically around employment? I'm wondering, Camila, do you know is it possible now to give everyone the opportunity to select to unmute themselves, or do we need people to just participate through the chat?
Yeah, no, perfect. I've just made that available. I am mindful we already have a couple of questions in the chat. And so maybe we can start from those, and then, yeah, we can ask people to raise hands in case they want to drop a comment or question.
That'd be great. I'm trying
Let
to
me go ahead and start with Michael's
John.
question. Sorry, we're talking at the same
No,
time.
thank you.
And you'd ask if the program, I'll address the GMI part. Is it free? Is it flexible to reach other locations? The answer to both of those is yes. The GMI program is completely free to university and youth partners, and definitely, of course, to students. We're a nonprofit that's supported by corporate sponsorship and grants from foundations, these types of things. And we're definitely looking for more student pipelines to bring into the program. We always seem to have a shortage of students. So, and especially interested if you have a scalable supply of students. So more refugees would be wonderful to include in the program.
I will hop in after John and addressing the same question. The SNU GEM program is free to our GEM students, and they have a scholarship. As far as open opportunities to students who currently not located where our partners are located, the SNU GEM program is delivered as a blended learning model. So we have an online degree program with the in-person wraparound supports. And so right now, our students need to be located where our partners are currently located. We do provide a pretty broad call for applications, and we do want to make sure that students can physically access the partner wraparound support services, as some of the wraparound support services include things like child support and nutritional support and mental health care. We decide where we're going to operate based on the partners that we're able to identify and their knowledge of the context and their operating history of in the context. And so if you feel like you are a partner or know a partner who might be interested in expanding with us, we would love to chat. Can we talk about, there was a question around the challenges that we face, and I'm wondering if we want to just hop onto that because I know we're limited on time. And I wanted to raise that, some of the challenges we face are similar to what John mentioned around students having lack of access to internet or bandwidth situations. Also, students just having the lived experience of being refugees and all that comes with that. And whether they're living in refugee camps or urban refugees, there are a lot of priorities, competing priorities. And also, though, in some of our contexts, refugees don't have the right to move or the right to work, and in some of them that they do. And so really understanding what's going on in each context is challenging and something we rely on our students and our partners to share with us. In contexts where refugees don't have the right to work, we are looking for partners who are interested in hiring students maybe remotely. And we have a steady flow of graduates who have US accredited degrees, who have gone through the GMI mentorship program, who are wonderful candidates for work and just need the opportunity, whether it be locally on the ground or online and international. I'll kick it over to you, John, if you want to share more.
No, I think we covered it well there.
Jado, I see that you have your hand up, and then Camila.
Yeah, I was going to talk about on the other side of the opportunities as we're talking about opportunities and challenges. I would say most of the GEM graduates and GMI students, they are ready to go. I'm speaking from the experience when I applied it to the program in Italy. So I showed up to the interview and they was expecting someone, a refugee in the camp. And maybe he's not aware on how to use the computer. Maybe he doesn't know how to speak. But at the end of the day, I was able to present myself and won the program. So when I was doing my traineeship at the European University Institute in Italy, in Florence, last year, so I asked them, what did you expect from someone from a refugee background who's living in a refugee camp and who's moving from Africa to Europe, and what did you expect? So they told me something, and it was very interesting to me to know. They were like, maybe he doesn't know how to use the computer. What if he doesn't know how to? What if he doesn't fit in? But from the experience, the SNHU program, it taught me how to, I would say, how to think, not relying on anyone else, but be able to leverage what I have and then be able to do something. And the GMI program was something like, hey, okay, you're ready to go, but now this, you will meet people from different backgrounds, so know how to behave. And from my experience is that I wanted to highlight this. Most of the GEM and GMI graduates are ready to go. They're just waiting for just one opportunity, and then we hope on that. I would say, if anyone is not sure if refugees are ready to work, trust me, they are ready. We are ready too. Thanks. That's what I wanted to say.
That's great. Camila, do you want to speak, and then Felista?
Yeah. Thank you so much. I'm mindful of time, and so I'll be brief. I had a question, but just some comments. First of all, just appreciation, for the session. I think it was very good to just have the insights from the organizations, but also, hear from the testimonials. And, in React, we also have experience running mentorship programs, and we've heard a lot on how beautiful it is, not only for mentees, but for mentors, right? It's like a two-way relationship, as all, but, we've heard, students, maybe they were thinking that they were going to talk about CVs and getting a job, and some are just reflecting that they are learning about life, and so I like, I think mentorship is just beautiful in the way that it's flexible and will adjust to whatever needs that the mentee has and what the mentor has to teach too. And so I just, appreciate everyone's comments and learnings. And just a very quick question, but I'm happy to connect further. But how long is the mentorship program? And I guess for example, SNHU students, at what stage of their learning, throughout their career, are they engaging in the mentorship program? And apologies if you already mentioned this on the session, but this is quick.
Go ahead,
So the mentorship program is the mentorship program is 14 weeks. It's a structured program, 14 weeks on average. The mentorship lasts between 14 and 20 weeks because there will be some weeks that will change. I feel like I'm not the best placed to say when we engage the GMI students. I think probably Landoir Inos or Rachel could share more on that.
When students have 60 competencies and plus, they are eligible to apply to GMI program. Basically, when they are done with the associate degree and they are embarking on the BA milestone, is the time they can start to show the interest to take the GMI program. Thank you.
Yeah, it has to be when students are preparing to complete their degree and transition into employment. So it's typically the last or second to last year, but that's where we really defer to the actors on the ground because of the fact that SNHU is a lot more of a flexible program than a traditional 2-year or 4-year degree. Felista, can I think you're going to have the last word before we wrap up the session.
Okay, I just want to say that the programs are really interesting to us refugees, and we are really appreciating for this opportunity that is given to the refugees. It's really embracive and it's really supporting us, and it's making us to think globally and visible to reason out and try to be job creators instead of even job takers. So it is quite interesting. One of the challenges or experiences that I have seen or witnessed with the students, with the GEM, we have this program of withdrawal of the students, and I have a suggestion, or thinking like if the partners will be the one in charge of this issue of withdrawing students, it will be a bit better, just because they are the immediate people in contact with the students. They understand the environment, the situation of different countries. They are able to see more what the student is going through. Otherwise, that's my request or my suggestion. But we really embrace the program, and we are benefiting so much from it.
I've heard part of what you were saying, but not entirely. I don't know if anyone else was able to catch a little bit more. Felicita, I know that you are moving. If you want to put anything in the chat as well, we can try to also read your words out loud.
Yeah.
But I think we are a couple minutes over, Camila, if you wouldn't mind just putting the very last slide, the conclusion thank you slide, because that gives the information for SNHU GEM and also GMI to allow folks to connect with us on LinkedIn and have our contact information. Just wanted to, if you don't mind just putting that last slide up again, thank you. I wanted to thank everyone for attending. This work really is about building an ecosystem. So hopefully we can all connect after the session through LinkedIn or other platforms to go deeper into how we can really increase and intensify this network to improve outcomes for refugee learners, because this really is work where everyone has their part to play. I think we can all agree that refugees have been failed by our world and our systems, and so we can all come together by pulling. Nonprofits have their place. Universities, businesses have a huge piece in this, and mentorship organizations that can help kind of bridge that gap and provide support as these brilliant, bright, hardworking people who have had very challenging situations can transition into dignified and long-term careers. As Jado said, we just need to provide opportunities. And so that's what we're trying to do today. And hopefully after this session, we can improve that even more, and next year do another presentation about how to construct an entire ecosystem and not just a partnership. So thank you so much for all the speakers. Thank you so much, Camila, for handling the technical aspect of the session, and look forward to connecting and continuing these conversations.
Likewise, thank you so much for that closing remarks, and I look forward to connecting soon. I saw in the chat that we have very interesting folks on the call, and so yeah, looking forward to continue building community and to welcoming everyone to continue joining us for the last week of the summit.